Hey guys, it's Kay from KS Anonymous, and I am back today with another episode of r/malicious compliance. Written up for not following work schedule, I comply to the fullest. Caster me equals cook 1, Bob equals cook 2, Mia equals supervisor, and boss names are changed for privacy. Our workplace follows a bi-weekly work schedule. I am one of 3 cooks that work. I usually work 4 to 5 days a week, interchanging Friday and Saturday, 11-hour closing shift, and Tuesday and Thursday, 6-hour closing with Bob. As Friday and Saturday are the most busiest, and we close at 11 p.m. instead of 10 p.m. as most days. With agreement from our boss, we would switch every schedule. This schedule would be sent in text and a physical copy at work. Bob was scheduled to work this time as I gave notice a month ahead for those days off. Boss likes to copy and paste schedules, screws up by posting the physical copy stating I'm supposed to work and text copy as my days off. First week of Mia following the physical copy, she calls me that day that I'm 30 minutes late and asking where I am. Confused, I explain the situation that I have my day off and I can't come in. She interjects saying I was scheduled to work and that I'll be getting a warning for no-show. The next day I get a call from boss about my no-show. He doesn't care that the schedule was wrong and not matching. Tells me if I miss today, I'll be written up and that you must follow the schedule at work. He can't schedule anyone else as nobody wants extra shifts besides me, Bob, and Cook 3, and can't hire anyone as not enough business. Next month rolls around. Bob is quitting and has already given his 2-week notice. The new schedule shows up and I noticed the schedules don't match. Bob was assigned to work Friday and Saturday when he already has quit by then. So after closing Thursday night, I muted my phone from work and I head home to have a few drinks and a J. Come back to work Sunday and boss is waiting. Goes at me for missing work and how he had to fill in for me as nobody else could. I just told him I was only just following the work schedule exactly. Oh man, he was furious. But after calming down, he does a 180 as he had no one the next week to cover those days. I just said I couldn't work those days as I get back to work just as the lunch rush comes. What makes my malicious compliance even better is, next week comes, I'm at my mom's work friend's party. I see my boss's wife there also. I meet her and have a short convo that led to asking her where boss was. She said, he couldn't make it as he needed to cover some shifts at work. I replied, too bad, we probably should have scheduled someone. I hope you enjoyed my MC as much as I did. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it knowingly, like, not doing a shift I know that they intended for me to be at. But at the same time, I don't know, man. After ripping into me for not following the schedule that you messed up, and we already, I gave you way enough notice to tell you that these are my days off, and you are the one who printed off the thing wrong. I guess I probably would be kind of down for a little bit of malicious compliance. This really reminds me of the nonsense at my work. Insanity, and then this whole thing of not scheduling people and then being like, oh, there's no one scheduled for this gap in time. I guess you, random worker, are gonna be here for 2 or 3 more hours. And it's like, I'm sorry, what? No, I'm not. No. So yeah, I guess I can see why you would do it. Don't schedule anything for your job? Roger. Well, I usually work in the structural engineering side of our enterprise. Occasionally, I will assist with some of the generic civil projects. We are a design-build company, exactly what it sounds like. I've been working with a project manager who has been with the company since its founding nearly 30 years ago. We will refer to him as Rob for this story. Important note, this project takes place near Fairbanks, Alaska. Well, about 2 weeks ago, Rob asked me to look into what it would take to get a 40-yard bin dropped off on site for scrap metal from an old tank that was being demoed. He said we want the bin to arrive on Monday, so Monday last week. I get scrap pricing as well as a drop-off scheduled through a local scrap yard and inform Rob of the scrap price and mention that the delivery has been scheduled. Fast forward to that Monday, and I get a call from Rob, and he is just screaming, cursing, and chewing my butt out for scheduling the delivery of this bin. He says, "I told you not to look into it. I told you to look into it, not schedule it." Well, to me, that means schedule it, and I pointed out that I informed him via email that the bin would be dropped off. Rob then says, "I don't care what the other PMs have you do. Nobody schedules any delivery to my job but me." Alright, fine. I can do that. I sent him an email which says something along the lines of, "I understood from our conversation this morning that in the future, I will not schedule any delivery for your projects. Is this correct?" That evening, a one-word response. "Yes." Last Wednesday, I get a call from the company which will be supplying the crane for our project. They inform me that they would like to get this 60 RT crane, pretty decent size, delivered to the job site on Friday. I tell them that I cannot confirm that delivery and that I will need to get Rob in touch with them. I'm informed that we need to get this handled ASAP because we are getting close to the delivery window. For those unaware, I assume most everyone, as I didn't know this until the conversation, there is a time in the late spring in parts of Alaska where delivery of loads over a certain weight are not allowed due to the damage that the load will do to the roadways with subgrades that are recently unfrozen. Apparently, this window changes from year to year, but is in place starting this week. You can still transport heavy loads, but it takes additional permitting and has a fee, much like normal oversized loads. I call Rob and leave him a voicemail that he needs to call back. Our crane supplier needs information for delivery on Friday. I follow up with an email. I did not hear back on Wednesday, so I repeated the procedure on Thursday morning, again with no answer to either call or voicemail. On Thursday, right before I head out, I email Rob and CC our VP, who heads all installation projects, telling Rob that the crane supplier needs an answer immediately, and that I've been trying to reach Rob since Wednesday to confirm this, as I have been informed that I am not to schedule deliveries for your projects. Well, that got the ball rolling. Rob calls me in the morning on Friday and tells me to get the crane here today. I call the crane guys and they inform me that there is no way that we can get the crane in that day and that it will have to come in on Monday during the restricted delivery window. I end up transferring the crane supplier to our VP because I am not about to approve the additional price of this delivery, and the VP handles it. VP is a cool guy. He's a bit annoyed with me, but I forwarded him the email confirming that I am not allowed to get delivery scheduled, and he's completely off my back about it. Sounds like we are out about $10,000 due to the additional charges for this delivery, and guess who is allowed to schedule deliveries again? I should note that the owner is in the office every day, and he is not the kind of guy to take lightly to the fact that he is out $10,000 because someone lost his cool about something stupid. The amount of people who would save themselves from being a part of someone's malicious compliance by just reading their frickin' emails and doing their job and stop getting mad at other people for doing their job is enormous, tremendous, clearly amazing. And yet here we are. That, oof. I don't know how I would handle. I don't know, like $10,000 is a lot of money. I don't know if that's like firing money in the particular job that they're in, but it would be very tempting. I'm just saying, you cost us $10,000 because A, you forbade this person from doing deliveries because you're a child, and B, you wouldn't answer your freaking emails and do your job. No alcohol policy plus lenient work from home policy led to interesting solutions. Roughly 2 years before the pandemic, I worked for a company with a fairly lenient alcohol policy. In fact, at some company events, even on company property, they served alcohol. It was not uncommon for executives and managers to have a drink at lunch on a Friday and finish out the day. One day, one of my employees went to lunch on his 21st birthday and had a couple of beers, and I drove him back into work to finish out his shift. He does basic computer input, has no contact with customers or operating machinery or anything dangerous. I got a note from HR that I need to give him a formal warning for what he did when they heard about it. I pointed out that there isn't a policy to enforce, and they decided to create a zero-tolerance alcohol policy based on this event. What they didn't understand was that they had 2 other policies in effect that we exploited. In order to make sure that people didn't infect the workforce, there was an infection reduction policy that allowed for people to call in sick after working part of the day to go home and get paid for the whole day. We could use this once per paycheck every 2 weeks. There was another work from home policy that allowed for employees to work from home for half a day without needing a reason. We could also use this once per paycheck every 2 weeks. After hearing about this zero-tolerance alcohol policy, I instructed all of my employees that if they were going to have a drink at lunch, that they should either call in sick for the rest of the day or work from home the rest of the day. Eventually got to the point where we would have a drink at lunch every Friday and alternate work from home or call in sick. Drunkenness, after all, counted as sickness to the letter of the policy. We called it F It Friday. I just really love this idea. We just called it F It Friday. Some people say TGIF, other people say it's F It Friday. Oh my god, that's amazing. That is interesting that HR would decide on that kind of policy with the kind of work culture that was already established there. I mean, they complied. Don't put C resume. I work in government. The other day was trolling around job boards to see if there are any opportunities available. Lo and behold, I found one that I'm well qualified for. On to the application process. Luckily, I am on one of those sites that stores my information, so I don't have to fill out my name, job history, etc. I dust off my resume, required, and list my job dates, titles, and duties, and also my cover letter, tailoring them specifically to the job at hand. Everything looks good. On to the questions section, which usually includes race, gender, veteran status, etc. But apparently that wasn't good enough for this job. They also had a bunch of supplemental questions. Well, not totally unheard of in the government field, it is a giant pain in the butt. Some are multiple choice, asking how many years I have with a specific skill. However, after each multiple choice question, there's a question asking me to detail my job dates, titles, and duties where I gained this experience. Then at the end of the question it says, please do not put C resume. Why shouldn't I? My resume has those exact things. So I decided to maliciously comply. I did not write C resume. Instead, I copied and pasted large sections from my resume directly into the text box. Add all the necessary information, and I kept the bullet points, etc. Spoiler alert, I was not selected to interview for the job. When I decided to do the malicious compliance, I basically decided that I didn't need the job that bad. P.S. I hate all the hoops that some employers want you to go through for the privilege of working for them. I think there is a theory that if you really want to work for them, you will do the hoops. However, good potential employees, already employed and reasonably happy, know their worth and don't want to do these unnecessary steps. It basically gives away that the employer is high maintenance. It keeps away the lazy people, but also the good people, driving your workforce to the middle, in my opinion. I've probably told you guys this story before, but I had to complete an application because I was applying to do some, basically like, not necessarily, kind of like video editing, but not quite, for a local police station. So basically they have a crap ton of footage, and they need the relevant footage filed, so maybe like, I'm assuming like trimming off bunches of nothing and putting relevant stuff in places where it belongs, filling subpoenas, that kind of stuff for video stuff, okay? And as someone who does video stuff, I had applied. And their application is extremely in-depth. Like, extremely in-depth. literally, if I ever want to recall where I lived since pretty much I was born, I can just go back to that particular application, because that's how far back they wanted your address from who knows where to, like, I think 10 years? I think it was 10 years. 10 or 15 years. I can't remember. You had to have all your addresses, how long you stayed there, all this information, all your past jobs, every, like, little thing. They're like, don't leave out anything, and it was a lot. I got called in for an interview, actually, for that. But by the time I got there, I realized I was likely not going to be selected, because the person in front of me was walking out and talking to other people in the office, like, area, like he knew them. And so I was like, yeah, he's probably gonna get the job. And then there was, like, this whole panel of people, and the people I would have been working with, like, we seemed to jive, but there's this lady who was really not happy with me, I guess, probably because I wasn't super well articulated. I wasn't very articulate. Case in point. And, you would have to testify on occasion if you were brought in, and, she was like, if you don't, like, speak very well, then basically screw you, and we don't need you here. And that's kind of where it ended. Yeah, going through some of these hoops, it's like, I don't, like, some of the stuff, like, even, like, Target or places that are supposed to be entry-level jobs, it's like, oh my god. Like, no wonder people don't end up trying to get jobs. Like, it's a whole thing just to try to enter stuff in for that. And I have more patience for, like, forms and stuff like that than most people do. And just expecting short attention span teenagers to try to it's just ridiculous. Sorry, no unemployment for you, but so in this story, it wasn't me doing the MC, but I was the intended beneficiary of it, so I guess this is my story. Back in the early 90s, I was working for a company that provided staffing for US government agencies. I was a system administrator at a large Department of Transportation facility. One day, I walked in, was told to see my supervisor, who very apologetically told me that Uncle Sam no longer wanted me working there, and, well, I was fired. I was told to go to the contracting company's office on the other side of town, which I had never been to save the day I was hired. Shocked, I drove up there. I was like 24 and had never been fired before. In retrospect, I know what happened. The project I was working on was failing, not because of anything I did or didn't do. The concept itself was flawed. There were 3 people who worked on this project. 2 were federal FTEs, plus me, the contractor. Anyone who has had experience with this knows the contractors are the first to go. So I'm sitting with the manager of the local branch, who has an email from the government employee in charge of the doomed project, listing a parade of horribles that I had done. Some of the minor ones were true, I had been late a few times, but the major ones were just fabrications. They claimed that there was a problem with the networking and that a contractor had to be engaged to fix the problem. Is that true? Well, yes. I am that contractor. I diagnosed the problem and then I fixed the problem. That's my job. Or at least it was until a couple of hours ago. The manager realizes pretty quickly what's going on. Not that it gets me my job back. As we go through the separation procedures, he tells me that per company policy, he's required to document that I am not eligible for unemployment compensation. I just nodded because I didn't know much about these things. He says I am getting a 2-week notice and that for the next 2 weeks I am to show up to his office. He offered the use of office equipment to print resumes, apply for other jobs, and the like. So after a couple of days, he says he set up an interview for me at another project at the same facility. Sure. I went down there, sat with the project manager. Interview lasted less than 5 minutes. So we're a COBOL shop here. What's your experience with COBOL? None whatsoever. So we both realized it was a bad fit. I went back to the office, confused as heck. The site manager knew I didn't have COBOL experience. Why did he send me there? I found out a few weeks later. I'd applied for unemployment compensation anyway, upon the urging of friends who said that policy sounded really sketchy. I had an interview at the unemployment office, and they looked over the paperwork, noticed that the form said ineligible, and the lady explained that I could contest that. I said sure. She asked me if I've been applying for work. I said yes. She asked if I've had any interviews. I told her about the one I had. Her eyes widened, and she smiled. If they interviewed you for another position, that means you were not terminated for cause. You were let go because of lack of work. that's a layoff. She then marks on the paper that I am eligible for unemployment compensation. I ask if I still need to contest their finding. No, they can contest my determination, but given that they actively tried to keep you employed after these events, it's not gonna fly. He did you a big favor by sending you on that interview. TLDR, manager given an unfair directive by corporate, sends me on an interview for a job I'm not qualified for, so I can get unemployment compensation. Okay, I find this one to be one of the coolest malicious compliance ones, because it really, it's almost like a mixture of humans being bros too, because it really didn't benefit that person necessarily directly to send this person who got fired basically on that interview, but he knew what would happen, because if they took an interview with this person that they supposedly fired for cause, then that's BS, because why would you interview a person that you're trying to fire for cause for a different position? You wouldn't. So then it's because you didn't have work for them. Speaking of, I got fired because there wasn't enough work for me. I really probably should have applied for unemployment, but I never did. That probably would have been smart. Looking back, but that was quite a while ago and a lot of trauma ago, and we are not gonna get into that. But but that is so cool. That just makes me happy. Like, the malicious compliance ending in like a humans being bros kind of situation, it just makes me really happy. And I think that's really cool. Like, if you get the chance, that's not gonna really hurt you in any way, to do something awesome for someone else, in the case that, you know, something like this were to happen, just do it. Just be an awesome person. You know the saying, not all superheroes wear capes. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for today's video. If you enjoyed it, go ahead and drop a like and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Really quickly, I'd like to thank my patrons. Up on the screen, you should see my face palmers and my crazy case. Thank you all so much for supporting me in that way. If you are interested in becoming a patron, checking out the original posts from today's video, or sending me an email for possible inclusion in a future video, all of that information is in the description box, so be sure to check it out. And I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye!